Just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, Artie Lang managed to find a new low. With more stints in rehab and encounters with the Grim Reaper than anyone can count, it's a wonder that Artie Lang is still fighting. When Artie Lang was born in 1967 in Livingston, New Jersey, there was no indication that he would develop an addictive personality. His mother was a housewife, and his father, Artie Lang Sr., was a successful contractor. Lang even idolized his father, whom he compared to Superman for climbing on roofs and installing television antennas. But there was something sinister lurking beneath the surface of their quiet suburban life. Despite his outward appearance, Lang Sr. was no saint. On the day of Artie's birth, Lang Sr. stood accused of storing $200,000 worth of fake bills for the mob. Thankfully, the judge took mercy on the new father and released him, despite all the evidence proving that he was guilty. Fate, as it turns out, would not be so forgiving. Despite his history of poor grades, Lang managed to get into university. But far from inspiring a desire for higher learning, Lang's university career only fostered his love for comedy. While giving a presentation, Lang had his class rolling with laughter, and he discovered that it felt amazing to get that reaction from people. Then, his whole world came crashing down. Lang quickly lost interest in his studies at university and developed a deep desire for a career in stand-up. But just as he was figuring things out, life threw him a curveball. While installing an antenna, Lang's father fell from his ladder and broke his back, becoming a quadriplegic. With the sole breadwinner for the family effectively immobilized, Lang had to make a tough decision: comedy or family. Lang put his comedy aspirations on hold to help his mother with their mounting medical bills. But even with both of them working, it wasn't enough to make a dent, and they had to appeal for help. Lang and his mother started a campaign, calling celebrities and asking them to donate items that they could sell to help cover their bills. Sadly, none of the celebrities responded. That is, except for one. Lang and his father were big fans of comedian and radio show personality Howard Stern. As it turns out, Stern wasn't just funny, he was also a very generous guy. As the only celebrity to answer Lang's plea for help, Stern sent an autographed jacket along with a joke. Does this guy think that if he puts the jacket on, he's gonna walk again? Both Lang and his father found the joke hilarious. But unfortunately, laughter wasn't the best medicine in this case. Lang Sr. passed away a few years later from an infection. Artie Lang began his meteoric rise in comedy when in 1995 he became a founding cast member of one of the most iconic sketch comedy shows ever. Out of approximately 8,000 applicants, the show creators selected Lang and 7 other comedians to star in Mad TV. But the higher Lang rose in his career, the higher he got, literally. Overnight, Lang went from making chump change as a stand-up comedian to making real money as a sketch comedy TV show star. In addition to his massive signing bonus, Lang started making $7,500 per episode. But instead of fueling his career, the money only fueled his bad habits. Habits that he had acquired while working in the seedy underbelly of New York comedy. With his pockets filled with Mad TV cash, Lang started doing drugs like it was going out of style. Lang's addiction was so bad that his nose would become too sensitive to handle it. As a result, he resorted to a less conventional strategy, washing down the stash with a glass of JD. But really, he was just trying to drown out his pain. After just 9 episodes of Mad TV, Lang's addiction got the better of him. In a drug-induced state of depression, Lang attempted the unthinkable. He wrote a farewell letter to his mother and sister and attempted to end his life. Fortunately, his Mad TV co-stars found him and managed to save him. The only question was whether or not Lang could save himself. Lang's attempt to take his own life shocked his loved ones. No one could believe that just as he had gotten his big break, he would attempt to end it all. But in his own words, this was no mere cry for help. He was 100% serious about the attempt. To help deal with his issues, Lang chapped himself into rehab back in New Jersey for the first time, but not the last. After completing his treatment in New Jersey, Lang returned to Mad TV to complete filming the first season. To everyone's surprise, he appeared to have returned in rare form, funnier than ever before. Years later, he would recall that period as the best I've ever done in sketch comedy. He certainly left his mark. If you've ever heard the line, "Don't make me break my foot off in your A," then you can thank Artie for those laughs. That was the catchphrase of Lang's hit character, My White Mama, on Mad TV, but he was just getting warmed up. Once the second season came around, there was definitely no question that he put the Mad in Mad TV. 2 months into filming the second season of Mad TV, Lang fell off the wagon in a big way. He had lost a $15,000 bet on the Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield boxing match and soothed his bruised ego with copious amounts of drugs. When his Mad TV co-stars attempted another intervention, Lang fled the set. As Lang fled, his co-stars chased him through the streets of Los Angeles. Eventually, they managed to corner him in a parking lot, and authorities had to take him into the county lockup. But it gets worse. To add insult to injury, while he was behind bars, the director of Jerry Maguire called him to tell him that he had cut his part from the film. Lang's lifelong struggle with addiction had all started just as his comedy career began to take root. As he mingled with the dark world of New York comedy, he quickly developed a love for drugs and alcohol. In a cruel way, it almost seemed like the more substances he used, the funnier he became. His addictions would cost him far more than his spot on Mad TV in the end. Lang's sudden rise and epic fall in the comedy world had taken many by surprise. He had performed his first stand-up routine at 19 at the Improv in Manhattan. "I tanked for 5 minutes," he later explained. He had avoided the stage for 4 years following that massive fail. But with his career in shambles, he knew he had to get back to basics. Before his Mad TV days, Lang had only given himself 1 year to make it as a stand-up comedian. During that year, he worked as a taxi driver in order to make easy cash. Whenever he managed to book a gig, he would simply double park his taxi near the club, run in, perform his set, then jump back in his cab. To get his career back, he would have to do that all over again. Once Lang secured his relief from the county lockup, he returned to New Jersey and checked himself into a psychiatric hospital. Despite knowing that he needed the help, Lang described it as the most depressing period of his entire life. With the help of his Mad TV producers, Lang then entered rehab for a second time, but they declined to renew his contract. He didn't stay in rehab for long. He checked himself out and returned to the stand-up comedy circuit in New York. But Los Angeles would soon reel him back in. Norm Macdonald saw Lang in an episode of Mad TV and thought that he had a melancholy about him that was perfect for his upcoming film, Dirty Work. Macdonald invited Lang to audition for the role. With his spirits boosted, Lang gave the perfect audition, but the studio, MGM, wouldn't agree to hire Lang unless he obtained an approval report from his rehab facility. Seeing as though he hadn't actually completed his treatment, Lang only managed to secure the approval with a $1,500 donation. Before Dirty Work even premiered in theaters, Lang started receiving offers from other studios and networks. In fact, major networks started fighting over who would get to sign him next. Ultimately, he landed with Fox with enough money to bail his mother out of every single financial debt she had. But he couldn't bail himself out of trouble. Lang teamed up with Norm Macdonald again for The Norm Show and started making more money than he knew what to do with. But the show's lame and easy jokes left him feeling creatively empty inside. So he decided to double down on stand-up. It turns out, even after his Mad TV success, his true breakout and breakdown was still to come. Fate had once brought Lang and Howard Stern together, and it was about to do it again. When comedian Jackie Martling left the writing team for the Howard Stern Show, Lang knew he had the opportunity of a lifetime. In an attempt to replace Martling, Stern started a Win Jackie's Money contest. But Lang doubted he would win the coveted job. Fans from everywhere auditioned for the opportunity to write for the Howard Stern Show, and Lang knew he had stiff competition. He confessed to his manager, "There were a lot of great funny guys that were funnier than me." But Lang had one big advantage. "I guarantee that I'm the biggest fan." The question was whether or not Stern was a fan of his. Against all odds, Lang landed the job for writing for Stern, but his jokes were landing flat with Stern's listening audience. Just as he feared that the show's producers were about to fire him, he received an even bigger opportunity. They put him directly on air, alongside Stern, and told him that they were just going to keep the mic on at all times. They told him, "If you had something funny, just say it as you." And the gimmick worked. Once he was able to tell his own jokes, Lang became an immediate hit with Stern's listeners. One reporter called him a kind of comic everyman, who said what everyone was thinking, but no one was brave enough to say. At least not live on air. For Lang, it was a dream come true to work alongside his childhood hero, the same man who had donated an autographed jacket for his quadriplegic father. Lang's time co-hosting the Howard Stern Show catapulted him to stardom like he'd never seen before. But he never lost sight of what mattered most to him. When Stern decided to leave radio for Sirius, CBS tried to pay Lang $20 million to take over the show and undercut Stern. Not wanting to upset his friend and hero, Lang declined the offer. Lang moved with Stern to Sirius, appearing on his show each weekday morning, but he was burning the candle at both ends. On weekends, he would tour the country, performing stand-up and raking in as much as $3 million per year. It wasn't long, however, before the pressure got to him. Lang's hectic schedule caused an epic relapse. In order to cope with the stresses of his daily radio show, his stand-up schedule, and his filming schedule, Lang turned to painkillers, and a lot of them. According to him, he began taking as many as 20 painkillers a day. Ironically, the painkillers only caused more pain. When he ran out of painkillers, Lang turned to even heavier drugs. In 2005 and 2008, however, he managed to clean himself up enough to complete production on a handful of films, and even put together a comedy show for the troops in Afghanistan. Until one night changed everything. Suddenly, he was right back on the track to disaster. Lang's comedy career kept him in the presence of shady characters. One night, for example, he hooked up with a drug-dealing ex-dancer that he had his eyes on, but apparently not close enough. He awoke one night to Hurt injecting something into his arm. When he missed an appearance on the Comedy Central roast of Bob Saget, his friends and family knew something was wrong, and they acted fast to intervene. But Lang saw through their motivations. Lang's agent called him and told him that Comedy Central really wanted him at the roast of Bob Saget. They even offered him a private plane with a doctor on board, and even agreed to pick up the $65,000 tab. But Lang knew nothing was ever free. Lang turned down Comedy Central's offer to help because he knew it wasn't the kind of help he needed. "I was like, I know these kinds of doctors," Lang said in a Rolling Stones interview. "If I beg him to shoot me up with morphine, he's gonna do it to keep Comedy Central happy, and I'll end up having a heart attack." So Lang missed the show, and for the third time, Lang entered himself into rehab. After that third stint in rehab, Lang managed to stay sober long enough to write his best-selling book, Too Fat to Fish. It was a collection of autobiographical stories that he said range from funny to dark to tragic to sad. Despite his best efforts at sobriety, however, his darkest story still laid ahead, and he would barely survive them. Between his work on the Howard Stern Show and his stand-up career, Lang was making more money than he knew what to do with. But happiness still eluded him. He relapsed in early 2009 and checked himself into rehab again for the fourth time. But he didn't stay long in this strict environment, one where he would have to, as he put it, get a doctor's prescription for an apple because of the high sugar levels. Lang's fourth stint in rehab was part of a 21-day program, but he didn't even make it to week 2. He checked himself out of rehab in order to meet up with a girl he had a crush on. He blew through thousands of dollars on fancy dinners and sunglasses, or booking a weekend's worth of shows to make all the money back that he had just spent. Much to everyone's disappointment, Lang reappeared on the Howard Stern show, having not completed his treatment. But it wasn't really a surprise either. Despite his best efforts and intentions, Lang was still very much addicted. He managed to return to his busy work schedule and even managed to put out some of his best comedy specials ever. But the combination of being on the road and morning radio was more than he could bear. He stated that if his work schedule hadn't put him in the grave yet, it would if he kept at it, and he was very right. Things came to a head in December of 2009, when Lang appeared on the Howard Stern show in an alcoholic and painkiller-induced stupor. During a commercial break, the show's producer told Lang to take the rest of the day off. Fortunately, he had the good sense to check himself into rehab for a 5th time. Once again, Lang failed to stick with the treatment program. He hated everything about the rehab facility on Long Island, and after just 8 short days, checked himself back out and returned home on December 23rd. He spent the next several days, including Christmas and Christmas Eve, in a painkiller-fueled haze of depression. And then he really self-destructed. In early January 2010, Lang took his treatment into his own hands. In a state of depression, he made another attempt at ending his life. This time, however, he went to the most extreme lengths, which included drinking bleach and using a knife on himself. It would take a miracle for him to survive, and a miracle is exactly what he got. Unbeknownst to Lang, as he was doing this, help was waiting just outside. By some miracle, his mother, sister, uncles, and fellow comedian Colin Quinn just so happened to arrive at his apartment, ready to stage an intervention. His mother found him a bloody mess, just in time to save his life. Lang recovered from his severe injuries and a psychiatry ward, but remained in a depressive state for more than a year. Eventually, Quinn had to hire 2 big guys to drag Lang back to a detox facility for the 6th time now, against his will. According to Lang, it was an abduction, and it's exactly what I needed. They dragged me, literally kicking and screaming. Lang entered a period of sobriety where he produced podcasts, TV shows, and a second autobiographical book, Crash and Burn. He called it the most honest thing I've ever done in my life, but he wasn't quite out of the woods yet. His many years of substance use were about to catch up with him in a shocking and painful way. While performing on stage in Chicago, Lang suddenly collapsed. A stunned audience looked on as medical staff rushed the never-sober comedian to the hospital. When he was finally well enough to speak out, he revealed that his decades of substance use had left his chest and nose severely infected. He had survived, but not without scars. On an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, Lang explained a long-standing mystery: what happened to his nose. A bunch of things. 30 years of substances, Lang explained. He also recounted the time when a boxer punched him out for 10 minutes, breaking a bone in his upper nose. He also talked about inhaling glass through his nostril, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That, combined with the sheer amount of torment he inflicted on his nose over the years, caused it to cave in. Lang spent the next few years going in and out of treatment facilities. His ongoing substance use issues, along with a growing list of legal troubles, encouraged him to step away from the limelight to hopefully finally clean up his act. Lang tweeted out to his followers that he had found a new job at a gas station pumping gas. Fortunately, his gas station gig was just a temporary position to comply with the court's orders. Lang hasn't quite returned to stand-up comedy yet, but he left his eager fans with one last joke to tide them over until his next big comeback. Don't use substances to be cool. Do 'em because you hate yourself. Lang's legal troubles started long before he hit rock bottom. Even before he knew he wanted to be a comedian, Lang had a knack for practical jokes. But not everyone appreciated his sense of humor. He learned that in 1985. At just 18 years of age, in an attempt to impress a pretty girl, Lang entered a bank, approached the teller, and slipped a note across the till. And things didn't go as planned. Artie had intended his little stunt with the note as a reference to Woody Allen's take on Money and Run. However, when the teller read the note saying that Artie was armed and that he demanded $50,000, she did not get the joke or the reference and triggered the silent alarm. Much like his father, however, Lang had a lenient judge and got off with only a misdemeanor. As of now, Artie Lang is sober and doing well. According to his longtime friend, Jimmy Palumbo, he's doing okay. He's sober. He's just trying to put it all together right now and get himself healthy and have a clear mind.